Modified 95 family. We are back this fine morning. We finally have an opportunity to do some serious work on my 96 Civic hatch. We are giving back the borrowed b16 and we are putting in my built GSR. So I'm very excited about this. So without further ado, we are going to get to this. This car needs to be back on the street. This car needs to be on a track finally. That's what it's supposed to be built for. And I'm too busy messing around, trying to do cosmetic things, waiting to buy paint. Don't need it. The engine bay is good enough. Just need to get the motor in and paint the rest later. So give me a 5 on my black hand side and let's go. And this is where we want to be. The finale of this video should be this beautiful beast in there. You can see it's right where we left off. I was worried too much about cosmetic stuff, like I was saying. The bumper can all get painted later. Engine bay is good enough. I can fix the leak down there. When we first painted this engine bay, there was a leak from the clutch and it messed up the paint, but I can fix all that later, even with the new motor in there. So this b16 that I borrowed from my housemate after I spun a bearing on that motor we just saw is going back. He doesn't really need it back at this particular junction, but I'd rather have my motor and not be putting wear onto his. So we're gonna get going. We're gonna get the wheels off, wheels back on, with the center caps removed so I can get the axle nuts off. Then I'll just start unplugging things, and I'd like to get to a point where we just lift this out and drop the other one in, even if we don't plug it all in today with the time that we have. And I'll do a lot of that in time lapse just to make this hours of video into hopefully 20 minutes max. That is my goal. All right, I got both the front wheels off and back on the ground so I can use the weight of the car so the car doesn't move while these come out. There's probably other ways to do that. I think this is the easiest way, and this is the way that we've always done it for swaps. So that's my suggestion to you if you're doing this process. I just have my tool with a 10. I was able to take the battery out and then start unplugging a lot of the wiring harness. There's not a lot of tools required for that. Like there's a 10 mil that lets that one that goes on top of the thermostat go, and there's one on top of the alternator that also comes off with a 10 millimeter. So I feel like we're halfway there, even though we're not, but that stuff all comes off really quick. I unplugged all the injectors, all the sensor, or the wires that plug into things like the idle air control valve in the back and to the throttle body. Those are all pretty obvious. The distributor that unplugs. And now I'll probably switch to a bigger tool. I think I need a 12 millimeter to get off that one last piece that connects to the distributor. And I want this thing to come out as whole as possible. Then I think I'll jack this bad boy up. I need to get off the exhaust manifold. I'm going to drain the coolant, and I'm also going to drain the oil before this bad boy comes out. And then when it does come out, there's going to be a few parts that actually came off the GSR that we ran on here because we know they were known good parts, and they'll go back on there, including things like the transmission. Moving right along, we got all the bolts off the exhaust manifold, so that's ready to come off. I just gotta undo it on the bottom. I drained the coolant, so that's my tool. It's like a 1 gallon water bottle. I cut a square out of the top, and it's very convenient. And I just use that to pour that back in the funnel. I overfilled it the first time, so I spilled a little bit, but I'm trying to recover as much of that fluid as possible because it's still in great conditions, great color, so it's still got a lot of life left into it. So I'm just mixing it into an empty coolant bottle that I have. But as you can see here, it only takes a few tools. I have like a 17, a 12, a 12, and a 10. Actually, with both 10s under there. And that Allen key. So I have these fancy Chinese skunk chew knockoff fender washer type deals. But yeah, it only takes a few hand tools to make a car that was perfectly drivable, undrivable, because everything's disconnected for the most part now, all the grounds, things like that. But this is what we're doing. We're getting things going. We will get to some cool time-lapse parts when I get the engine cherry picker out. That'd be very cool. But right now, it's just all the boring stuff, and it's just all gonna come apart. So I gotta jack this bad boy back up and get the exhaust off. Captain's log. This is where we're at. I'm starting to get those axle nuts off, but it's still very early, so I'm trying not to turn on the air compressor and bug my neighbors. But while this is up, things I've done is I got the exhaust off. That was pretty easy. I drained the oil and drained the coolant, got the radiator out, unplugged everything that was in eyesight. And I need to get under there, get that T-bracket off, because I'd like to at least pause with this thing just suspended by these two side mounts, because that's enough to hold it, because I only run those 3 mounts. So once I get that back mount, this thing's practically off. So I can get that strut tower bar on. I bolted it down really weird, so while it's up I can get into the wheel well and secure the nuts at the bottom so I can undo the bolts from the top. And then I need to get half the shift linkages off, because I was down there getting the exhaust off. I'm like, this is the same size, 12 and 12. Exhaust bolts should be 14 on one side and then 12 on the other. So you bring both of those tools, and that will also take off half your shift linkage. And then there's that pin that needs to be hammered out, so I'll get to that. I've gotten them out before. I've gotten them in like once. It's not really my specialty. Usually I get my roommate to help me with that, but he's still asleep. But his help will be dearly needed probably this afternoon for the transmission. I have a new clutch and flywheel for the motor that's going on to get more of that Type R effect, so I'm gonna need help with that, both getting this one. I think I can get this transmission off. I think I've seen that plenty of times, but I think we also need to open up this transmission to replace the, I want to see, detent springs for the more notchy type shifting. So I got those, and we need to make sure that this differential is locked with a phantom locker. That's just poor man's LSD, and that way all the power that this new motor should be giving me, I should be able to harness it to the wheels. All right, so the time that has elapsed has been about 2 hours. And in that time, I've gotten the axle nuts off, the wheels are off, things all jacked up, half the shift linkage is off. T-bracket, 3 bolts are out. One of them's stuck in there. I don't know why it's so tight. I'm not gonna mess with it, because we should be able to lift the engine out, because the T-bracket's connected to the transmission, but the side that connects to the engine mount should be off. So as it comes up, we just be careful not to hit stuff. But I'm pretty sure 99% of the wiring harness is unhooked. I'll have to see about like the evap canister and stuff like that. If there's anything that connects to that that's also connected to the motor, which I believe it is. Probably a few little rubber hoses need to be pulled off, but I'm gonna wait on that for a little bit. Exhaust is off, radiator's out. Yeah, everything, airbox is out, so it's just down to the point where we need to get the axles out. And I don't have the right size, I don't know what it's called. It's like a little clamp that pushes out your ball joint, like a ball joint pusher. And usually on the factory ones, there's like a big metal pad you can hit with a hammer. I have skunked 2 lower control arms. They do not have that, and I hit it a couple times, and I just didn't feel good about that. So I will give that a second, and I'll ask my housemate when he wakes up. Now I gotta take care of some dad stuff real quick. So hopefully we're still under 10 minutes at this point. And so when we come back, we'll start working on the rest of that stuff.
It's so hard to figure it all out, to even keep track of the countless times that I've dealt with your disillusioned eyes. Now my heart can go out to you if I tried, 'cause pigs like you will only slick the mud, and you want me to be as dirty as you. I battled to get out of these filthy trenches and leave behind the hills you put me through. No good deed goes unpunished, my first mistake was
Out, so we're about, I'd say an hour or 2.5 hours in, because 2 hours this morning, about half an hour to finish up the things we needed to. Was getting that pin out of the linkage, getting the axles out. What else we have to do? Yeah, and then just pull the engine out. We did that in time lapse, so that'll definitely be in here. And then over here, I think that axle is leaking and was shooting out. I don't know if that one's leaking or there might have been one in before that was leaking that shot everywhere. Not really sure, but I'm gonna clean it up right now. Check out this motor. This is that bar B16. It's actually B16A, and it has no number after it, so maybe it's JDM, or maybe it's an older model. Not really sure, but yeah, exciting. So yeah, we're gonna salvage some things off here, probably spark plug wires and a few other things to make the other motor go. And I'm pretty sure that the distributors have a different pattern, but we should have one that fits. But yeah, I'm gonna give us a quick scrub. Maybe I'll do that in time lapse, and then we'll be on to the next thing. I gotta say that one of my guilty pleasures is watching All Day Anthony videos where he has all these cool cleaners and he cleans his engine bay and everything looks like it's new. And I love to watch those and then use absolutely none of the cleaners or tools that he has because I'm not buying any of that crap. It's cool though. I like it. I wish my engine bay looked like that. And that's the part where the clutch fluid leaked out, brake fluid, clutch fluid, whatever, leaked out. Just jacked up the paint. It's an at-home paint job. I don't think we even clear coated this one. Just some championship white in a rattle can, and we're good to go. I'm gonna give us a quick little wipe down, and then I will get the assistance of Zero, and we'll separate the transmission off that, and then we need to get the clutch and flywheel onto this, which is new in box over there. It's been there for months. It's waiting to go on this beauty. I'll get the oil filter on. I'll swap everything over like the fuel rail. I think I'm gonna take from that, give it a quick wipe, put it on here. We're gonna make that throttle cable work. Yeah, I'm hoping that we have all the hoses to make this happen. All right, so here we are working on the GSR. So I'm trying to resemble the Type R. So one of the things I read about it is it has a lightweight flywheel that's lighter than stock. So I have this one, I believe it's a 9-pound flywheel. We just got those Loctited and locked down in there. And then I have a 6-puck clutch disc that's going in there. So we're gonna get this all attached, and we're gonna get the other transmission bolted on here, and then make sure that we have everything we need before we drop it into my baby behind me. All right, Modified family, this is where we are. It's well after 4th of July and people are still setting off fireworks in this podunk town I live in, which causes the next door neighbor's dogs to go ape, which is unnecessary from a headache. But GSR, b16C, all locked and loaded. All the mounts are in place. Exhaust is fully connected. Clutch line's back on. One of the hoses that goes back to the thermostat piping that goes between the water pump and the thermostat, it does not reach, so we'll need to get a new hose for that. There's a different design on the B16 and the GSR, especially the GSR that has a skunk tube manifold. So this is my hose for my PCV valve, so I need to bridge that with this other little emissions canister thing that most people just delete, but I live in California, so I need it so I can run over to this charcoal canister so I have all the stuff I need for emissions. We're just gonna keep buttoning things up. It's like 9:15, 9:30 at night. We started early. Wish I could have got more done earlier. I really was trying not to chase the sun for what little light it would give us, but everything's looking pretty good. Everything else is going into place. Swapped out a starter because this was messed up on the other one. It got cross-threaded somehow, probably in our haste last time we were doing this swap. And then on the other side, we have a different alternator because I was getting lights when I was driving the other one when I wasn't spinning fast enough apparently, and it would come up as like electrical warning, so I figured might as well just swap alternators. So hopefully this is a good one because I don't want to get in there to have to swap this again now that this is in the car, 'cause it's a lot easier. All right, Modified family, have a good night. I'm gonna get this video out to you guys, and then we'll get back up to it when we get more stuff done.